Hey guys, MexiGary here. How you doing? It's podcast numero 5 or numert 4. I can't speak any other language apart from English, and I can't even speak that very well because I'm from Scotland. So I'm going to start putting subtitles on the screen so that you guys. I had a comment on a YouTube video that I put up, and I obviously speak English, but in a weird accent to most of you. And this guy was like, he was clearly from the south of America. I don't mean South America. I mean the South. And I love Texas, and I love everybody down there when I'm there. But on the internet, these people can be quite abrasive. This guy was like, "Can somebody convert this guy's language to English for me, please? Because I really want to know how to use this pedal." And I didn't want to. Like, somebody commented saying, "Dude, he's actually speaking English. Broaden your mind," or something. Somebody defended me in some way, and it's kind of weird because somebody in my band once said, "Dude, if you ever get negative comments, just leave them, because if you're doing the right thing online, then some of your followers will defend you on your behalf. You don't have to do it yourself, and it's actually classier if you do it that way." So anyway. So if you guys don't understand me, just put the subtitles on. I'm sure, if AI is designed to, sexually fulfill us and mentally subjugate us and probably technically overthrow us at some point in the future, then I'm sure you can figure out what the fuck I'm saying on YouTube about guitar pedals and effects. All right. So I'm going to talk about what happened to us this week. So last week we did the Wolf Jam on Sunday, Howlin' Wolf, Bath Street, Glasgow. By the way, if you don't know me, my name's MexiGary, Gary Johnston. I'm in a band called 3 Card Trick, based in Glasgow, Scotland. We play about 250 to 280 gigs a year. No backing tracks, no miming, fully live band. I know that's a shitty thing to say, but it's something that needs to be said in this day and age, I think. Anyway, so we played the Wolf Blues Jam last Sunday, and with Charlotte Marshall, who runs the Killing Floor Blues Jam, and she's from Australia, so it's definitely a multicultural thing, especially since Cory Wong showed up with his band. And that was an absolutely phenomenal moment for all of us there, because obviously we all know Cory is one of the most phenomenal musicians on the planet at this moment in time. And his band was there as well. We had Johannes on the bass, and we had Kevin on the keyboards. And my God, it was a lesson learned, tell you that. Sometimes in these small-ish communities of music, you kind of get ideas above your station. You start thinking you're good. And then somebody like Cory and his band comes in and goes, "Oh, hold on a minute. Hold my beer." And not that he would ever do that. He's not that kind of guy. But not that I know of. But when we met him and played with him, he was so humble. His band was so cool. They had so much time for us all. Their gig at the Barrowlands was pretty much sold out the next night, so they had no reason to do that. It's not like they were coming in on a sales pitch or anything like that. It was literally just to jam, because these guys still enjoy playing music, together or with other people. Clearly, so that was absolutely incredible. And tonight I've been watching not a TV show, but a YouTube show called Shred with Shifty. Shred with Shifty. So it's just Chris Shiflett from Foo Fighters doing a podcast. Like that's becoming a bad word these days, podcast, because everybody who thinks they're something has got one. But I love them because I learn so much from them. It's like, remember when we used to watch Jules Holland and Top of the Pops? And I used to watch these shows like, I wonder what guitar that is, or I wonder how he learned to play that riff, or I wonder who influenced this song. It's like, we've now got this entire video library where you can just type in your favorite guitar player of all time or favorite musician, and even if they don't have their own podcast or YouTube show, then somebody is somewhere talking about the inner workings of that. So it's so crazy. I mean, I'm showing my age now. I was born in 1983, so I came up with Jules Holland, Top of the Pops, all these like shows where you wouldn't have any backstory. It was like if you weren't there to watch it and see what guitars they were using, you missed it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the band that springs to mind right now is the Seahorses, which is a Brit rock band at the time. They probably wouldn't like me calling them that. A Brit pop band called Seahorses, which was made up of John Squire from the Stone Roses and a bunch of other guys, including Chris Helm, who was a phenomenal songwriter and singer. And he mostly played the acoustic guitar. And I saw them on Top of the Pops once, and I was like, Jesus Christ, these guys are amazing. Amazing riffs, amazing choruses, amazing songwriting. So anyway, that's why I love Shred with Shifty, because you get to see the background as to what these guys are actually using, what they came up with, like what gear, what their trajectory through music was. Like when you watch the one with Chris Shiflett and Dave and Pat, it's crazy because Chris is asking them questions about shit that I would assume after 20 years of working together, they would easily know about each other. But they're talking about riffs from like, oh, I didn't know you used that chord during times like these, or ever long. You know, and then Pat's like, oh, I don't even know what chord I used during that song. Like, sometimes you just like feel like Pat Smear's just happy to be anywhere. He was in Nirvana, for fuck's sake. But he's happy to be anywhere. You know? So after I watched that Shred with Shifty episode with the Foo Fighters, which was Dave and Pat, I ended up watching the Chris Shiflett Rig Rundown, which was really interesting because I know that Shiflett was never really a pedal guy. In fact, when he joined the Foo Fighters, he had one guitar and one amp. I don't even know if he had a real amp. And then Dave took him guitar shopping the next day. He's like, "What you're going to need more than one guitar if you're going to play in the Foo Fighters." Took him guitar shopping, and then the next day they went pedal shopping. So I can see, you know, imagine if you could just if you got like Dave Grohl's Amex card, he just went like, "What do you want?" You're going to go, "Well, I've never had a delay pedal, I've never had a flanger, and I've never had a Strymon reverb. And I've never had a quad cortex." You know, I don't think he's quad cortex kind of guy. But, you know, it just makes you realize that your artistic, I think sometimes your artistic, what's the word? Scope or something like that. Is a lot of the time is based on how much money you've got to spend on it. You know what I mean? Like, if you've got nothing, you go, "Oh, all I need is a distortion pedal and an amp." But then if you've got like 100,000 in the bank, or even if you've got like 1,000 in the bank, you go, "Oh, I could really do with a delay pedal." I know this because that's what happened to me. And I tell you one thing, I built all that up. I built it all the way up to the point where I had like a £2,000 pedal board that I would take around and be like, all these little boutique pedals that would cost me like £200 there, £200 there, £300 there, £400 on this one. And a lot of them were like 60 quid, or some of them were little like cheap things that might have been 200 quid, but I got them for 30, you know. But all in all, if I built it all up, it would be about, well, I'm being a bit cocky saying £2,000, but you know, maybe 1,500 if I took my actual thing out and what it's worth right now. And that's why I love the GT1, because I can fit all of that, well, not all of it, not the vocal effects, but I can fit all the guitar effects into the GT1 in an 80% way. We've talked about this before, and I've always told you guys, doesn't matter what you say about the GT1, it's never going to be a studio piece of gear. Like, if you want to really sound like the real thing, you're never going to get there. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you about, because I had a couple of questions about, like, what was your pedal board like before you had the GT1? Well, I'll tell you, the basic version of it was, and most of it's Boss. So unless I specify the brand, just give it taken as Boss, all right? So the TU2 tuner, right? Then you got the CS3 compressor, because it was the third variant of that. You got the BD2 Blues driver. Then the Procore Rat. It was the second model of that, because the first one is just needlessly expensive. The second one sounds just as good. It's the turbo one you want to avoid, because the turbo one is a very specialistic Rat, right? It's not as it doesn't cover as much of a wide range. It's very like everything from like the heaviest Foo Fighters song, from like the color and the shape, all the way up to like I would say Deftones, Papa Roach, even heavier than that, Slipknot. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend that I know any more than that, but I'm just saying that these bands all use the Rat. But I wouldn't put it past somebody like John Mayer to have also used the Rat pedal, but he would use it in a secret way just to say that he'd used the Rat at some point. You know that song Crossroads? You know, oh, I can't believe I just said that song Crossroads. When John Mayer covered Crossroads for the album Battle Studies in about 2002 or 3, no, it would have been 6 or 7. So he used, he said to an interviewer on YouTube, I used the exact same guitar tone for the rhythm as I did for the solos. And I was like, did you though? I think you might have used the same guitar, the same pedal, and the same amp, but I think you fucked about with the guitar tone itself to bring out the lead tone as opposed to the rhythm tone, because the rhythm tone sounds really dead. You know, it was like a cocked wah. But then when it comes to the lead, it's like a half-cocked wah. You know what I mean? But you'd have to ask John himself, you know, and if he wants to ask me, you know, whether I, you know, question him on it, then by all means get him to give me a shout at MexiGary. But yeah, so after what was I talking about? I was talking about my original pedal board before I got the GT1. So it would have been, then it was the Rat. Then after the Rat would have been getting into modulation there. No, it was the MXR micro amp, because I've always thought that was the best, not even clean boost, but just like gritty boost. It's not a clean boost. It's a micro amp, and it simulates, I think, a valve amp boost channel. So it does add a bit of grit, I think. There are clean boosts out there. Rothwell does a good one. They've got a good one called an atomic booster. There's one below that that's less gritty, called a Rothwell something. But the atomic booster was great because you could actually dial back the grit to almost 0, and then you just put the boost on, and it would literally just do a clean boost of everything you just did with your input chain. Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. And by the way, when you talk about compression, I use compression all the time. I just leave it on. That's why I don't really like it being on the bottom of my chain. Like I like the tuner being there, but I prefer the tuner and the compressor being up on the second tier. I never use more than 2 tiers of pedals, right? So my top tier would go tuner, compressor, and then it would go down to the front of the bottom tier, and it would be like, you know, Blues Driver, Rat, micro amp. Then we're getting into modulation. Now, I can't be arsed with choruses. I don't do chorus. It's too subtle for me. It's too subtle. Like, I'm a big fan of like Matt Bellamy, Tom Morello, Incubus. Who else was I talking about the other day? Anyway, fuck it right now. Well, yeah, I guess Chris Shiflett, you know, he doesn't use chorus that much. He uses it he's got one in his board. But when you've got 3 guitar players, you don't need one. And, you know, I don't use modulation that much anyway. So when I do use it, I want it to really, like, be, you know, out the front. You know, I know that Andy Summers, the Police, he used chorus pretty much as a stock kind of modulation pedal. I mean, I don't know how much he used it because his guitar, surprise, surprise, wasn't the front instrument. You know, it was Sting's voice and Sting's bass that was right out the front. Andy's guitar only came out when there was no vocals, and there wasn't really much time for that, you know. And the great thing about the Police was there wasn't that many solos anyway. Well, I'm not saying that was a great thing about the Police, but I'm just saying it was a unique thing about the Police. Andy's a great guitar player, but I think their strength lies in the sounds that they use across the wash, as opposed to like shredding. You know what I mean? Anyway, I've gone off topic already. I was going to talk about my last Sunday's jam with Charlotte Marshall at the Howlin' Wolf, Glasgow. And guess who showed up to jam with us all? Mr. Cory Wong and his band. And they were bloody incredible, by the way. Like, very humble. They waited until the last minute. They didn't really infiltrate on the night. They didn't, like, try and get up while other guys were playing. Like, they were on tour. You know, it was, like, towards the end of their tour. So the fact that they would even pop into a jam anyway, you know, on their night off, before they played the Barrowlands the next day on the Monday, and then went down to London for 2 nights there. It was just so lovely. Like, they're such cool guys. It was Cory, it was Johannes, and it was Kev on the keys. Johannes was the bass player, and just great guys, you know. And Cory even complimented me on my guitar. Not my guitar playing, just my guitar and my tone. But, you know, that was nice in itself. Gav played the first song with them, which was Sir Duke, and I got to play a little bit of a 12-bar and G with him. Charlotte run the show, and by the way, she was bloody epic at it. Like, I was kind of starstruck, but because Charlotte's not, like, a guitar aficionado, she was just like, yeah, it's just another bloody shredder. She didn't say that, but, you know, I could tell that's maybe what she was thinking, you know. We're all just guitar players in the eyes of a super cool, like, amazing, you know, girl who can sing and also plays bass. You know, we're all guitar players to her, you know. But, you know, it was so cool that the way that she handled the whole thing, you know, because if it was me that was hosting it and Cory Wong came up, I would have just threw my guitar at him and ran to the back of the room to film it, you know, which is kind of what I did. But I managed to get most of it on film. So you can find that on my YouTube channel at Gary Johnston Music, or maybe at MexiGary. I haven't changed it yet, but I'm going to. Anyway, so we had a couple of days off. That was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, so Wednesday was box. And it was really good. It wasn't as busy as it normally is, but then it got busier. We're having a spate of like late night pub gigs recently where it starts off like we think, oh, we're too old for this place now. We're totally gonna get sacked. And then it gets mega busy, and we're like, oh my God, we're fucking rock gods. We've still got it. And then the last half hour just dies a death. And I've got a theory about that. I think it's because the kids are spending the money in the cheaper bars, and then they're coming in for the free music, and then they realise, oh shit, I've got work or college in the morning, so I can't stay out till 3 a.m. like I used to. So it's not a us thing, I don't think, or I hope not, because these 20-year-olds are still coming in requesting, you know, Arctic Monkeys, Rolling Stones, Oasis, Blink-182, Green Day, Foo Fighters, Incubus. It's fucking, the list goes on. And Chapel Roan, which I fucking love, by the way, because Chapel Roan is basically emo for the new generation. It's basically Fall Out Boy without, like, guitars being prominent. You know, lyrics and melodies, they're all still there. It's all the same music, but with a different kind of packaging, in my opinion. In my opinion. Right, don't nail me to the wall for that. So that was box on Wednesday. Wolf on Thursday, again, started off, I had that kind of mid-hump where it was like, started off quite busy on Thursday from 11, and then got really busy with all the black tie events at the nearby theatres and stuff started kicking out. And then towards the end, same thing, you know. So, but we don't really mind that, because I'd rather that than getting to the end of the night. It's like, one more tune, and people falling about the place, just steaming, throwing up on the gear, spilling beer on the keyboards and all that. It's like, all right, people are starting to learn, you know. And I'm not being funny, but I do really think that this new generation. Oh God, I'm really starting to sound old now. But the younger generation of mine, like maybe even people like 15 to 20 years younger than me, starting to realise things that we didn't, you know, which is, well, you know what? Maybe we should go home before we start throwing up all over the place. None of us did that. You know, I mean, I didn't do that. I used to throw up on the street. But, you know, people still, up until about 10 years ago, from my generation, did that. And it's kind of embarrassing. You look at them and you go, Jesus Christ, like, And I think people now are starting to realise that it's not cool to do that. You know, it's not rock and roll. You know, but, you know, I don't know. One thing I do know about, though, is that it would be nice if you guys would continue to comment on these podcasts, because, you know, it doesn't take me much to do. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. It's just me sitting on the couch. I'm currently watching Foo Fighters live. I've got some notes on my iPad right now. We're talking about what I've done for the last week. And it's kind of a fun thing for me. It's kind of a therapy session in a way. But YouTube comments and likes, I just love focusing on one channel, one output. Do you know what I mean? And I think YouTube is the way to go for me, because I love long form content, as you probably know. If you've followed me for a while, you know that I love long form content. I love chatting about gear extensively. I love fucking arguing about gear as well. So get in there in the comments and let me argue with you about GT1s and Ibanez tube screamers and fucking Mexican Fenders versus Americans versus custom shops. And Fender versus Gibson, because I've a lot to say about that shit, man. In fact, I was on the Fender website earlier on looking at how much it would cost to actually build my own custom shop Fender Telecaster. And I tell you one thing, they didn't even have the options that I would want. They didn't even have, in the Fender custom shop on the website, they didn't even have the options that I would want. So fuck them. Well, having said that, the closest thing that they had would have only came to about $2,500, which is pretty low compared to like a Gibson. Cause my mate Eddie, he bought, he made his own white lady. He calls it the White Lady. It's a white Gibson custom, and it's all to his specs. And he says it cost him about $6,000. $6,000. But having said that, he also imported a Gibson Flying V, one of its kind, to be fair, but it costs $4,000. But because of import taxes and the fact that it was so rare, it ended up costing him like $8,000. But, you know, it was his mum's inheritance, so he can do what he wants with it. But I wouldn't do that, you know. I think for me, $2,500 is probably enough for one guitar per decade, you know, until you're actually famous. I mean, if you save up £20 a week, you know, you could probably afford a custom shop per decade, and then you're doing pretty well with that, I think. But as long as it's worth it. But the one that the difference for me is like the custom shop ones that I want, they're not available on the Fender website. I want one with a P90 in the bridge and sorry, I'm talking absolute nonsense. No, I'm not actually. P90 in the bridge and a single coil in the neck, but they don't do that kind of routing. At least for the custom shop ones, that's totally a freakazoid kind of thing. So they don't do that as spec. But I did come up with a good. It was like it was red. It was a mahogany body, red translucent finish. Oh, now that I think about it, I might just get it anyway. Like in a couple of years, when I can afford it again. Red translucent body mahogany with black 3-ply scratch plate, white. Black with a white, you know, binding on the scratch plate. Maple neck, black headstock, right, to go with the black scratch plate. Gold hardware. Yeah, I know you're going to love that. It sounds like it might be garish. Like my ex-girlfriend taught me the word garish, and it just means like, I think it just means like trying too hard to be flashy. But I don't know. Look at Richie Kotzen, man. You know, he's got gold hardware on both of his guitars. I know what you're thinking, but Gary, you can't play like Richie Kotzen. I know. I know that. I know I can't. But I think that his guitars are maybe the influence for what I want mine to look like, you know. And I always thought that my custom guitar would be a Strat. And it might well be because I flick too much between teles and strats. But generally speaking, I think the most versatile guitar on the planet really is the Telecaster. And, you know, by the way, argue with me all you want, but I think a Telecaster with a single coil in the neck and a P90 in the bridge, I don't think anybody could argue with that. Okay, I'll give you one. I'll give you one. Right? Okay, you could get a split coil. You could get a split stacked humbucker in the neck. All right. If you really wanted to go bluesy, if you really wanted to go BB King, you could have a stacked humbucker, single coil in the neck of the Telecaster, and have a P90 in the bridge. Now, that's the problem, though, because the P90, you can't split it, so you're never going to get that tele twang. But if... no, you're right. I'm having an argument with my fucking self right now. And you, because I know what you're saying. You're saying, but Gary, you'll never get a Brad Paisley sound out of that P90. And I'm like, well... when do I ever use a P90? When do I ever use a Brad Paisley tone? Rarely. But when do I ever use like that kind of Billy Joe Armstrong kind of Foo Fighters? Because Chris Shiflett from Foo Fighters uses the P90s. You know, that pop punk. I know Tom DeLonge uses the Invaders, but you can still get the, this is what we're going back to, but the Rat pedal, you can get that out of a Rat pedal. Tom DeLonge only uses amp distortion. He doesn't use pedals. He uses a channel switcher pedal, right? So I've gone back and forward about it, but yeah, so I just decided, no, custom shop guitar is not for me because they don't have the... You know, on the website, they don't have the options. If they did, I might think about it. But I'm not paying $2,500 to then have to pay another, like, £1,000 to have it routed for a P90, you know, and then wired in for that. No, well, it wouldn't be £1,000, it would be about £500. But, you know what I mean? You go on the Fender website, you expect to have a guitar built exactly to your specs, but they're not doing that. They're giving you options like a tick-off list. It was the same when I stupidly went onto the Ford website and tried to build my own custom van. And it was like, they didn't have all the options. It was just like, okay. And it just shows you they're not really building the van to your specs or the guitar to your specs. They've built all these guitars already. Or they might have built basic versions of them. And they're just going to give you one that's closest to what you've already decided on. And then just put the pickups in that you want. You know, they're not really routing these guitars or putting them... I didn't even have the option of jumbo frets. Not that I would want jumbo frets, but medium to jumbo. You know, that would be my thing. But they didn't even give you the option of that. They had like maple or rosewood. That was it. And they had matching headstock or not matching head. But it wasn't even matching. It was either maple headstock or black headstock. You know, and the only reason it matched was because of my scratch plate was black. So I'm not buying it, Fender. I'm not buying it literally and figuratively. Some people will. I've yet to go on the Gibson website and see if they're still doing the custom shit. But I'm just wondering, how custom is it if you're giving people like multiple choice tick boxes? Do you know what I mean? If anybody knows anything more about this, let me know in the comments, because I really do want my own custom shop Fender Telecaster at some point. But I'm not paying for a production line thing where it's just like, okay, tick, 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 tick. I want them to build and shape this fucking neck, and I want them to wire these pickups and wind the pickups, and I want the, you know, you want to get what you pay for, basically. And the only reason I'm being this cocky is because that Fender, the Squier Paranormal Deluxe Troublemaker Telecaster that I just got, it's so close to being my fucking ideal guitar. But the pickups are shit. And I know I've said in videos before, the pickups are great. You know, they're so versatile. Yeah, they're great until I compared them to the Gibson 339, which was $2,500. Right, so you're comparing a 400 quid guitar to a $2,500 guitar. Now, what I will say, and I'm getting quite passionate about this now because I really fucking care about this shit. Now, the feel is almost, you couldn't, even the producer who produced our last demo, not demo, but the video showcase thing that we did for 3-Card Trick, my wedding covers band, even he picked them both up and he was like, man, I can't tell the difference in quality of the necks. Like, this is a 400 to a £2,500 guitar. And the necks feel incredible. They both feel incredible. And the tuners are great. It stays in tune. The electrics are incredible. So far, I will say that. You know, I've had the 339 for 6 months. I've had the Troublemaker for about 2 months, maybe 3 months. But it's the pickups. And it's one of those things where you don't notice the difference until you A-B them. You need to A-B these guitars. You can play them in the shop all you want and go, oh, that sounds fucking great. It sounds like Thunderstruck or fucking Damn It or, you know, whatever you want to play, like Enter Sandman. Or like, oh, it sounds like Everlong. Or that sounds like Smoke in the War. I don't give a fuck. You got to bring your favourite guitar in that you know and love. And even bring your favourite amp in and your favourite pedals. Like, you're spending a lot of money on these guitars, man. 400 quid's a lot of money, even at that. Never mind £2,500. £400 is a lot of money. You know, I mean, that's a couple of months or maybe even 3 months saving up in a normal job. Don't waste it. That's what my channel is here for. That's why I started making videos on the GT1, so that people don't waste their money on a Helix just to keep up with the Kardashians. That was figuratively speaking, you know what I mean? Just to keep up with it. I want you to make sure that you're making the right choices on guitars and pedals and gear so that you're not like spending money on shit just to keep up with everybody around you, because I never did that. Like, I never had money before, right? So it doesn't matter to me if I'm playing a Squire or a Gibson. I don't ever play a gig thinking, oh, what will they think of the guitar? Because I can play the bloody thing, right? Maybe not to the level that they can, you know, but I can play it. I don't embarrass myself, you know, by playing it. I may embarrass myself in other ways by the way I chat shit between songs, but the fact of the matter is, you take your favourite amp, and by the way, we'll talk about this next time. I really want to get into this, but amps are way more important than your choice of guitar. Amps and guitars, it's not even pedals, it's amps and pickups. Amps and pickups. And the guitar itself, aside from the pickups, is how easy is it for you to play, and how easy are the electronics, like the volume pickup, the volume pots to reach for you, you know, and the toggle switch between pickups, if there is one. You might be playing a one pickup guitar, and that's totally cool as well. And do you like the look of it? Because the look of it, a lot of people would say, well, who cares what the look of it is? You know, the guitar picks you, you don't pick. I'll tell you one thing, that's complete bullshit. Because if you love the look of a guitar, you're going to want to play it more. And if you want to play it more, you want it to sound great. All right? So sometimes I would go feel, then look, then sound. Because you can always fix the sound. The sound is just getting proper pickups and proper wiring. Like, well, when I say proper, I'm being snobby there. I mean, get professional pickups, maybe even wound to your specs. You go down to your guitar tech guy. For me, it's Ian Nicol in West End of Glasgow at CC Music. Absolutely phenomenal guitar tech. He will ask me, what do you want out of these pickups? And I'll tell him like 3 artists, and I'll maybe play a little bit on my guitar, and I'll be like, this is what I want to be playing on it. And he'll be like, cool, give me a week. And I'll come back and he's wound me a set of pickups, and they're fucking amazing. And then I'll take it in maybe a week later going, I would like that one to be a bit hotter, maybe take a little bit off this one, and the middle one could do with a bit more of a less scoop, and he'll fucking do it, and it'll take him a few days. Honestly, man, go down to this guy, Ian Nicol, CC Music in Glasgow, one of the best guys I've ever met, for like just the technology of tone within the guitar pickups, and he will tell you things that I could never. I just can tell you what I've learned off of playing guitars, and this isn't an advert at all, right? It's not an advert. He doesn't even know that I'm talking about him right now, but I'm just saying I'm so passionate that people shouldn't spend $3,000 on a guitar thinking it's going to be amazing. Because I spent $2,500 on that Gibson 339, and yes, it's everything I want it to be, but it's still not. It's not the be all and end all. I don't even know why I bought it, because I'm a Fender guy. I bought it because I wanted a really good Gibson, and I wanted it to be the last Gibson that I ever buy. You know what I mean? I've got an Epiphone Les Paul, I've got a Gibson SG. They're all just kind of parts caster, kind of, different pickups, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to see and feel what a brand new 24 Gibson 339 sounded and felt like. And as soon as I picked it up, I told you this on a few podcasts before, I picked up the one that was cheaper, the £1,900 one. And it was very bland. It was a dot inlays, flat finish, just very bland sounding. And then put it back on the shelf, and it was beside this quilted top one. And I was like, let me try that one. And I instantly, fell in love with it, for what it is. But the thing is about it, I will never need another Gibson now. I'll never need a Les Paul or an SG. I never really liked SGs anyway. I thought they looked cool. I would love to have loved them, but they're just not for me. They're very neck heavy. Couldn't go on with the weight of them. This 339, I would also have loved to have loved a 335, but they're just too big for me. I'm a small guy. I'm skinny. I'm like, as I say in Scotland, I'm built like the side of a fiver, which means like I'm like you'll work it out. I'm built like the side of a $5 bill. You know what I mean? So I'm skinny. So yeah, I'm just talking about pickups and just talking about, like, make sure you get the guitar that's right for you, regardless of what anybody else says. Because, like I said, I've been playing this Squire, and I've been playing. The stupid thing is, the guitar that gets me the most attention. Not that I'm doing it for this reason, but is the what I call white trash, which is Telecaster body, no chambering whatsoever, just a solid block of wood with two P90s in it. Thanks, Ben Stones, for donating one of the pickups. It's called the Queen of Mississippi P90 pickups. It's set up just like a normal Telecaster. Two P90s, two humbucker size P90s, I might add. Not the dog ear ones, the full size ones, but it doesn't affect the tone. It's just the size that they drop into, you know what I mean? And then you go up the top end of the neck, and it's got the Fender logo on the headstock, and it's got what I call the what's called the drop. What's it called? The extender, drop extender or something like that. Oh, God, I can't remember the name of the brand right now. But it's the thing that goes on the bottom E string. It's like a switch that you can switch between E and D. So you can go to drop D in a second. It's pre-tuned. So it's a switch. Who was it? The Kotzon's got one, I believe. And I think Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro had one. I'm pretty sure I got it off Kotzon. But yeah. Really cool thing to have on your guitar. And no, I just bloody love it. And plus the fact that it's road worn. And then, now, one thing that annoys me about it is that it is road worn by my own hand. Like, that guitar, it came to me as orange from a guy called Stuart Russell. He was selling it on Facebook Marketplace. And I was like, a P90 tele? with a whammy bar. By the way, it's got a whammy bar, and it's got one of the most solid tremolo systems on the planet, right? So it came to me, it was orange. I think I paid about 280 quid for it. My God, he hates me right now. In fact, I might have swapped him for something else, which was worth about the same. So I brought it home, used it for a few months. I'm like, I'm not using an orange guitar in Glasgow pubs. You know, you can Google that yourself if you're not from Glasgow. So I sent it away to get painted pillar box red. It came back purple, like dark purple. So I played it like that for a couple of months. People were like, why are you playing a purple guitar? I was like, Jesus Christ. Because everybody knows that most of our followers know that I always used like red, black, or white guitars. So during lockdown, I sanded it down from purple to bare wood, like absolute bare wood. And that was a bit scary because I loved the tone of the guitar and I was scared that, you know, what I was doing to the wood was going to affect the tone. And, you know, long story short, it did marginally. So what happened was I painted it, I did the whole paint thing, like I painted it white and blah, 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 all the different coats, undercoat, overcoat, finishing coat, blah, blah, blah. And then I worn it down. I made it look as road worn as it was when I got it, which was great fun. But then when I started firing it up, I was like, there's something fucking missing here. There's something about the tone that's missing. And I remember my pal Eddie Traynor said something. Well, I asked him a really stupid question. Well, I meant it to be funny, but he took it seriously. We're standing in Slouch one night, and I was like, we were talking tone, like in depth to a major extent. And I was like, so anyway, enough about the pickups. Do you think the colour of a guitar affects the tone? And he's like, you mean if you paint a guitar from like orange to white, you think that's going to affect the tone? And I was like, yeah. And I tried to keep a straight face, and he was like, you're a fucking idiot. But turns out it does. Turns out it bloody does. I'm just kidding. It's just because I've probably worn away like too much of the surface of the wood, trying to get the wood to be back down to natural, you know what I mean? So I would say that the colour affects it, but only if you do it yourself. Get a professional to do it if you can. Unless it's just a piece of shit that you just want to throw about. But mine wasn't, and I fucking love that guitar. There's 2 guitars in my collection that I could never do without, and it's not even the new 339. It's my original Strat, which I call Big Red, and the white P90 Tele, which are called White Trash. P90. Because, you know, I love humbuckers, and I'm starting to get used to them again. I started off my life of music with humbuckers and an Epiphone Les Paul with stock, you know, Epiphone pickups, whatever they were. And then I went Strat, and it took me years to figure out how to use a Strat. But I liked that journey. It was very difficult, and I had to use various different pedals and amps to figure out how to get like a big fat sound out of it, because I loved Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I was like, I won't be beaten with this. I won't be beaten. So I had a twin, and I got all the same pedals, and I just started to realise, listen, if you can't play like that person, don't bother pursuing that level of tone. Just play whatever's comfortable for you. And then, stupidly, I realised that with Stevie Ray, and then I started doing the same exact thing with Brian Setzer. I was like, I'll never get Stevie's tone. Who's this guy, Brian Setzer? Let's try. So I ended up getting a Gretsch and a fucking Fender Princeton and a fucking Valve, what was it called? Deluxe Reverb. All this crazy shit. Well, he had the 4x12 kind of thing. What was it called? I had one of them for a bit. Jesus, I'll never remember. Gus Monroe's got one of them. So I started using that, and then I switched them all out for TV Jones pickups, and And then I realized, you know what? Not only will I never sound like him, I don't really want to, because that's not really what I want to do anyway. Like, what do I want to do? That's when I went back to the humbuckers. That's when I went back to the humbuckers in the P90s. And I started realizing, right, I'm a rock guy. Because Jim Keel, who's a major blues player on the Glasgow scene years ago, well, he still is. But he said to me, like, and it kind of broke my heart in 2016 or something, when he was like, he got me up for a jam at the State Bar, and he goes, Gary, you, I know you love yourself as a blues player. Well, you didn't say you love yourself as a, he goes, I know you fancy yourself as a blues player, but you've got rock roots, and don't leave them behind, because there are blues players and country players and jazz players that would love to have what you've got with regards to like the rock thing. Because I always just think the rock thing is like home base. Like, everybody knows how to do that, and then they branch out into other things. And when I say rock, I'm talking about like Foo Fighters, Oasis, Green Day, Guns N' Roses, Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine. That's rock to me. That's rock. AC/DC. But some people over the years, I've started to realize that a lot of people didn't start with that. It's just that I did. So that's where my home base is. I'm not talking about home base. Like, I don't sell wicker. I don't sell fence panels. I do sell watering cans, by the way. So if you want to buy any watering cans, get on my Shopify page. But I just started to realize that it's not a, what's the word, burden to be stuck with this kind of rock knowledge. It's a blessing. And the knowledge that I have of rock and all 90% of music that I listen to, you could probably describe as rock in its core. Everything from I know I listen to a lot of mainstream stuff, but I've got a lot of kind of freaky stuff underneath it as well. But I'm not going to list them all right now. But these guys that like jazz and blues, they dedicated their lives to that music. They didn't dedicate their lives to the same music that I love, which happens to have one foot in pop as well. So I don't really mind that anymore. Sorry, this hasn't really been a funny podcast. It's just been like me talking about my musical. Maybe we need to do that now and again. You just need to vent a little bit and just get some musical, influences and direction off your chest. So I'm going to leave it there today, guys. Thank you very much for listening. One thing I was going to say to you is I am changing my name on all the platforms to MexiGary, which would make it easier for everybody to find me, because at the moment it's kind of like I've got Gary Johnston, which is my actual name, on Facebook and YouTube, and I think Spotify for the main part. But I'm going across everything as MexiGary, because like TikTok and Twitch and Instagram have been MexiGary, so it can get quite confusing. So it helps me with privacy as well. Like in the future, if people are looking for my own name, like if they know me personally, that's fine. But if they're looking for the artist name, they'll be able to find MexiGary. It's MEXIGARY, which is a lot easier than going Gary Johnston. Is that GARR or no? It's just one R. Yeah, GARY. And is it Johnson, Johnston, or Johnstone? Do you know what I mean? It can get a bit convoluted after a while. I'm sure some of you guys have got names that are a bit annoying with that as well. In fact, put them in the comments if you've got a name that's annoying for people to have to spell. It'd be names like Kerry, like Kerry. If it's like, was that KERRY? No, it's KERI. Well, Lindsay's a crazy one right now, especially in Scotland, because I feel like people are just picking their own spelling of that name. Like when I was in high school, when I was in even primary school, I had a pal called Lindsay, and her name was LYND Anyway, I won't like. It's kind of weird because I don't want to like expose her, but you know, her name was like the longest version of that spelling. Whereas some people these days just go Lindsay, like Linzi. You know what I mean? But you find like people who are over 50 will spell my name as Garry, and then people who are under 50 will just go, well, cunt, or no, just Gary. So it's kind of weird, like, but yeah, I just changed it to MexiGary. It's just easier that way. And yeah, dude, I had a lot more to talk about today, but I'm just going to bin it because time's getting on. And I've talked way too much today about nothing already. So I just want to let you know, guys, we're going to be here in Glasgow tonight, Sunday night, at the Howling Wolf from 9 p.m. till 1 a.m. doing the Wolf Jam with Charlotte. So you can bring a guitar or instrument if you want. If not, you're more than welcome just to use ours. 24th, Monday the 24th, we're going to be going to see Blue Nicotine at the Hug and Pint. The Hug and Pint on Great Western Road. So that's our pal Aiden's band with Doug Jagger and Gary Smith. Then on the 26th, we will be at Stramash, Edinburgh, from midnight till about 2:30, playing pop punk, indie, and new metal. On the 27th, the Thursday the 27th, you're going to see 3-Card Trick, the 5-piece 3-Card Trick at the Howling Wolf from 11 till 2. That's a Howling Wolf Glasgow. Friday, we're off. And Saturday, we've got a birthday party. Oh, it's in Glasgow, so that'll be interesting. And then next Sunday, we're doing the jam as well. So if you can't make it tonight to the jam, make it down next Sunday, the 2nd of March, for the jam at the Howling Wolf. We look forward to seeing you there, guys, because very exciting to be able to play with y'all. It's good to connect. Like I said, there's been so many people on YouTube that are connecting with me in real life now. People who are close to Glasgow, close to the band, wherever we're playing in Edinburgh, whatever it might be, Ayrshire, Stranraer, Dumfries, Newcastle. We're just getting about, you know, we're playing loads of people's weddings. We're doing a lot of pub gigs just now. So please let me know in advance if you're going to be there. We can have a wee chat beforehand or afterhand, and we can maybe get you up for a jam if possible, but not guaranteed. But by all means, check out the links that I'm going to put below. There's going to be stuff to the way you can find me on other platforms like Linktree. We've got YouTube. Well, you're on YouTube right now, so it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, which doesn't get used that much anymore, but I will be back in it soon. And Spotify, make sure you check out my shot on Spotify, and also have a great day. It's been great talking to you. Sorry if I rambled a bit. I'll try and make it shorter next time. You can't. Love you. Bye.